Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean, and I'm going to talk today about the situation with Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. After the fight the other day, Canelo beat Liam Smith. Good win, good performance. Um, Max Kellerman asked some questions that the boxing public wanted answered, and Canelo, understandably came out with, "Oh, I'm not scared of anyone," and blah blah blah. Oscar De La Hoya then went on to say that they made a good offer to Golovkin's people. It was, I think he said, like eight figures, so $10 million at least. Um, Trying to imply that somehow Golovkin's team weren't what they seemed, and Golovkin wasn't what he seemed, and that they were trying to make the fight, and that really Golovkin and his people weren't that interested. They were just trying to, fight against a load of bums and get, avoid like difficult competition. And that was the idea that De La Hoya tried to put out there. Um, Okay, so I'll give you my take on this. Let's start with kind of how we came to this situation, how this situation came about. I saw a video, I think a couple of months ago, someone did saying that the big mistake that Canelo and Golden Boy did was with the fight with Cotto, and the mistake was paying the sanctioning fees for the WBC belt because Cotto, obviously being Puerto Rican, Canelo Mexican, it was going to be a big fight, make loads of money. Mexico, Puerto Rico is a big rivalry. Cotto didn't pay the sanctioning fees for the WBC belt. He had Golovkin as his mandatory. Um, Now, everybody knows that Canelo is big for 154. A lot of people were suggesting that the reason he didn't want to go up is because he didn't want to fight Golovkin. Maybe that's true, maybe it isn't, but it's kind of relevant to the point because he was now his mandatory challenger, or he would be if he won that belt. Cotto was kind of like the first Canelo in that sense. He was like he was Cotto weight before it was Canelo weight. He beat he fought Daniel Geale, Sergio Martinez, which was a joke really that fight had to be a catchweight, but Cotto being the A side did it, and then he wanted to fight against Canelo. So what Canelo could have done, they could have said, right, we want to fight against Miguel Cotto. He's like a Puerto Rican legend. I'm a sort of rising Mexican star. Classic fight. This is going to be. He's going to make loads of money, pay per view, etc., etc. And then he could have done that. It was 155. He could have then gone back down to 154, and he wouldn't have had these Golovkin problems that he has now. He didn't do that. He decided to pay the sanctioning fees. Um, he wanted to walk around wearing the belt, calling himself the champion. So Golovkin then became his mandatory. So straight away, people are thinking, okay, so you want to call yourself the champion, you want to be the middleweight champion, you have to fight against Golovkin. What then happened made the situation even worse because they decided to defend the belt against Amir Khan. Now, Amir Khan, who was, I think he started his career either at lightweight or even super featherweight. I can't remember because he was very young, but he was small. He was notoriously chinny. He'd been knocked out a couple of times at lightweight, light welterweight. He'd been knocked down before by British level lightweights. He was a very good fighter at 140 pounds. That's true. We know that. But at 147, he'd done nothing really. He fought Chris Algieri in a tough fight. Um, he fought Devon Alexander, good performance, but Devon Alexander, like kind of small, no real punching power. He blatantly ducked Kell Brook for a long time. He would have got knocked out in that fight. He would have got knocked out by Keith Thurman, Sean Porter. I mean, we don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that he would have done, and so are most other people, I think. So it was obviously a very easy touch for Canelo to defend his middleweight title against Amir Khan at 155 pounds. The whole situation did absolutely nothing for his credibility, and then to do that, and then to give it up, to avoid fighting his mandatory challenger, who was Gennady Golovkin, and go back down to 154 pounds to take on who many people regarded as the weakest champion at 154 pounds in a much smaller fight for much less money, made him look very, very, you know, very bad indeed. Let's say. Um, Now you have to take into account as well that he's Mexican, and understanding the kind of tradition of Mexican boxing, the kind of characteristics they have, and the things they value and respect. It made the situation even worse. Canelo was supposed to be representing Mexico as at the face of Mexican boxing. It was like Viva Mexico, like with the flag and all this. But that is not what the Mexican fans want to see. I don't think there's an example of that in. I may be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, no Mexican champion has ever given up a belt to avoid a tough challenge. So I talk to quite a lot of Mexican fans on Facebook and stuff like that. Um, I speak Spanish, so I can see what they're saying in Mexico. I can listen to the interviews of like Julio Cesar Chavez, Juan Manuel Marquez, Gilberto Ramirez, like various others, and it did not go down very well there at all. He lost a lot of fans, lost a lot of support. I saw when he went to his brother's fight against Antonio Margarito. People were like abusing him in the stadium. Read the thing on social media. Just yeah, it's really done very very. It's done a lot of damage to his reputation in Mexico. Now he fights mainly in the US. In the US as well, that's the case. Probably less from what I can see. There are obviously a lot of Mexican fans or people of Mexican descent in America, and some of them still get behind him, as we saw against Liam Smith. I mean, he had like what 50,000 or 60,000. People were saying that some of the tickets were cheap. They were even giving some of them away. I don't know. I can't really comment on that. But what I can say is there was a massive crowd, and it's no, you can't deny that he's still a big draw. So I think Oscar De La Hoya is capitalizing on the fact that people kind of believe what they want to believe. Now, if you see Canelo in the ring after, and he's got the 50,000 fans there, and he says, "Ah, yo no tengo miedo de nadie. I'm not scared of anyone," and all the people are cheering like, that is a case of people believing what they want to believe, because his actions tell a different story. I mean, he's saying, "I'm not scared of anyone," um, while he's just sort of given his belt up, which he was so happy to defend against Amir Khan, to fight against Liam Smith. Liam Smith's a good fighter, but he's not Golovkin, is he? The fight made a lot less money. It was obviously easier. So he's there telling everyone, "I'm not scared of anyone," while his actions are showing us that he's scared of someone. So yeah, so that's like Oscar De La Hoya thinking, yeah, well, we just say this, and there are enough people who are just, they want to believe that Canelo isn't scared of Golovkin, and that somehow Golovkin's team are to blame, and that really they're just kind of taking the piss, and they're asking for too much money, and he's the A side, which is quite a new term in boxing, as far as I'm aware, especially for like Mexican boxing fans. I kind of, this isn't something that traditionally they're that bothered about. So this is like something that's trying to be kind of put out there by Oscar De La Hoya. Then you've got a lot of Golovkin detractors around the world. He's got a lot of people that want to see him fail, people who are desperate really to criticise him for things, and they've been saying for a while that he doesn't fight anyone. He's kind of lowballing people, talking about Canelo's taken on tough challenges. So again, there's a fair few people Obviously in America there's quite a few where Golovkin's generally based, but sort of around the world as well, you get like a lot of former boxers, people like Carl Froch, Floyd Mayweather, just to name a couple, people who have achieved a lot more than Golovkin has, but they're still like they seem a bit kind of, I think maybe because they're no longer in the spotlight so much, they kind of don't really like seeing this other person, being like really successful and like everyone talking about him like he's really good. So off the top of my head, those are two people I've seen quite a few comments that could be, to me, come across as a little bit jealous. And again, before anyone says, "Oh, how could like Carl Froch or Floyd Mayweather be jealous of Golovkin when he's achieved nothing?" You can be jealous of people for different reasons. Now, you can be jealous that people are in the spotlight and people are getting the attention. Whether you've achieved a lot more than someone in the past, it doesn't matter. In some cases, I'm saying, to me, it seems a little bit like that. So anyway, a lot of people don't like Golovkin, and I think that De La Hoya is capitalising on this, and he's just putting this out there, and people are going along with it now and sort of thinking, yeah, I told you. See, look, it's Golovkin and his team. They don't want to take this offer. They just want to like kind of give it a big one. But really, when it comes down to it, they're not interested in making these big fights. They'd much rather fight people they know they've got no chance against them. So that to me seems like what's happening here. In terms of the deal, they're saying it's like what, like an eight-figure. We don't have like a concrete deal, but let's say, for example, for argument's sake, it's like $10 million. And then he said something about to do with like pay-per-views as well. Now he said this is for like September 2017, so in a year's time. Now, why would anyone accept like a flat fee for like a deal a year ahead? Well, like a year's time. So we're going to just say, yeah, we'll sign a contract. We'll accept it for like $10 million, let's say. And in a year's time, maybe Golovkin has beaten Billy Joe Saunders and is the undisputed middleweight champ, beating Danny Jacobs. He's got like a much bigger following. Canelo is like presumably like his like pay per view generally for these. I mean, I don't know what the figures are for the Liam Smith fight, but he's fought Amir Khan and Liam Smith in his last two fights. Not particularly inspiring competition. When you're talking about on the pay per view star, I've been in pay per view, you have, but they were like against Floyd Mayweather and Miguel Cotto, both of whom are much bigger than Canelo, achieved a lot more. So you have to take that into account. You'd think that like they're gonna kind of potentially even up a little bit in terms of their popularity and what they bring to the table. So to me, that seems like just another way of trying to get out of this fight, make it unappealing for Golovkin, and make it look like it's the other way around, and give the sort of Golovkin haters and the kind of Canelo fanboys something to kind of cling to, like yeah, see, and then they've got some kind of something to either defend themselves with or attack with. That's how I see it. I think that actions speak louder than words, and I think it's pretty clear from the actions that we've seen that Canelo and his team don't want to fight Golovkin. I think what they're trying to do, they'll try and long it out as long as they possibly can, and wait till Golovkin has lost a step, doesn't look as much of a threat, all the while Canelo like potentially getting slightly better. So that's what I think they're trying to do. So yeah, in my opinion, this idea that Golovkin should just basically take this money because he's never earned that money before is just nonsense. Like every situation is different. Just because I accept I might get paid one amount of money for doing one thing, that doesn't mean that now I have to use that as a kind of measuring stick for everything I do in the future. You want to receive a fair amount of what's going to be generated, and the idea that you just sign something for a year in the future um, just seems silly. And to me, I don't think that they expected Golovkin and his team to go along with it. They wouldn't if it was them. So I think they can kind of put that out there and just hope that people can kind of take a bit of heat off them and make it look like, oh no, we are trying to make it, but it's just, they're quite difficult. We're making these reasonable offers and they just don't want to accept them. That's what I think about it. So yeah, I'm not expecting to see this fight anytime soon. And to be honest, I'm a lot more interested in seeing Golovkin against Billy Joe Saunders in any case. But yeah, that's all I have to say on this for now. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.